Hey everyone, thanks for joining us again for another episode of The Corrected View, brought to you by AAOMC. Anith Pillai here, Dr. Dwight Barnes, and today we get to have an actual guest, and my gosh, a superstar in the industry. Dr. David Kading is joining us here. We are so honored, so thrilled to talk to you today, and I got a bio here to introduce you, and man, is it long, because your accomplishments are just ridiculous. So, and this is an abridged version too, because I know you do a lot more than this for the profession. So, Dr. David Kading, you've been recognized as one of the top 50 optometry influencers of all time. I'll say probably a little higher on that. As one of the top 250 innovators, and listed as one of the top 10 best practices in eye care. He has 3 practices in Seattle, focuses on dry eye, specialty lenses, and myopia management. He co-owns Optometric Insights, which is changing the way students and doctors perceive practice. He performs research as part of the postgraduate residency program that he hosts in Seattle. He lectures internationally and has written thousands of papers and articles. Dr. Kading's teaching style brings about innovation and simplified perspectives to longstanding conditions. His podcasts, the OI Show and the Myopia podcast, are released weekly and downloaded by practitioners worldwide. Dr. Kading sits on several boards of both medical and charity organizations. Most of all, Dr. Kading loves spending time with his 3 daughters and optometrist wife, Christy Kading, ODFAO FCOVD. And I would love to hear more about your practice and your podcast. And I apologize if I left anything out. Feel free to add to your list of accolades. We're all about that humble brag. So yeah, we could start. Tell us a little bit about your practices and your podcast as well.
Yeah, sure. I finished up my residency a little disappointed because I wanted to stay in academia, because I wanted to do lecturing, I wanted to do research, and I wanted to see really focused in my specialty. And like you guys, we've created that, right? We've made what we want to do in practice. And that's the beauty about being a practice owner. And so my practices focus on 4 things: myopia management, dry eye, specialty contact lenses, and binocular vision. And I don't do any of the BV except run the business side. My wife runs the vision therapy side of our practice. But at least 50% of our day, if not more, is made up of seeing specialty referral-based types of patients. And that started about in 2007 is when we started our practice. And yeah, it's just been an incredible ride. Getting to do it with my best friend and optometry hero, my wife, has just been, an absolute pleasure. It's some people are like, I don't know that I could work with my spouse, but it's been so beautiful working together, because we get to really do what's best for our family and best for our practices. And then regarding the podcast, during COVID, we finished up a project that we were doing for Optometric Insights, my consulting company with Mila Brujic. And I just said, Mila, how often are you in a phone call with somebody in the optometric community and you're just like, holy cow, like what we just talked about and what we learned from each other could have been a lecture. And I'm like, how can we share that with the community? And I thought, well, a podcast is a great way to do that. So we launched the Optometric Insight Show, the OI Show, and we are celebrating our 2-year anniversary. And
Congratulations.
And then we about 6-8 months into it, I was like, I love doing this, but I want to talk about myopia. And so I started the Myopia podcast, and then we took it out on its own about a year ago, and we just celebrated our 50th episode. And so it's been absolutely a blast. When you dig into a topic like myopia and you talk to leading experts all around the world, it's incredible what you learn. I'm so humbled by people sharing their time with me to get to talk about something that I love so much, and I learn so much in it. And if nobody else gains anything from it, I learn a lot, and it's just awesome in that way. I know you guys probably feel the same way, but that's my podcast. I'm excited and honored to get to be on yours. I love the Academy, what they've done, how much they've taught me over the years, and excited for what you're doing.
I love the story of how you started the Myopia podcast. One of the things that I've always kind of felt when I speak to other optometrists, not even specifically talking about myopia, is there's so many different ways to be successful in eye care, right? There's so many different practice models, and you can speak to somebody who's as or more successful than you are, and they're doing it a totally different way. And even within myopia, there's guys that do all ortho-K, guys that barely ever fit an ortho-K lens, but they still do great myopia control. And I think that's pretty cool, the way you can have all those different perspectives and kind of jump from one episode to the next in the podcast and hear people who are doing it completely differently, but still just tearing it up and doing a great job of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Was your practice a cold start, David?
Quick, interesting story. So we decided to do a cold start, and I was making the phone call to the landlord on this day. And on this day, my prior doctors that I was an associate for called me up and said, tragically, Dr. So-and-so passed away in a motorcycle accident last week, and you have to go by his practice. And so on the day we were going to do a cold start or start that process, we found out about a practice that was a primary care practice for the most part, and he was doing a great job. We came in and we brought our specialties and doubled the revenue in 3 years, but didn't do any more eye exams than he did. It was just our specialty that grew it. And so we were able to have a warm start, and it was comfortable in that arena.
Cool.
Wow. That's quite a story where you're thinking, hey, I'm just going to start my new business, and oh wait, here's an opportunity here. I mean, I hate to hear the tragic nature of it, obviously, but
yes,
I'm glad to hear that it actually worked out where you could actually live your dream out with a warm start, as you said. So I would be remiss. I mean, you got a successful business with 3 locations now, correct?
Yeah.
So while I know you're residency trained and you wanted to be in academia and you're lecturing and all these things, I got to talk to you a little bit about the business side of it, because I know that's a passion of yours too.
Yeah.
So, we get a lot of questions about, I know how to do ortho-K and myopia control and using peripheral defocus contacts. I went to the lectures, I get that part. I'm really struggling. How do I bring it to my practice tomorrow? And how do I get the patients in? How do I actually implement the programs? So, one question that we get a lot is just about the consults. So the myopia management consults, how are you working that into your day? Are you talking about it during exams? Are you bringing patients back? A big question that we get is, you charge for these consultations? Is it, are you charging for them or not charging for them? Because I've talked to a lot of doctors, and successful practice do it both ways. So I'm curious of your thoughts on that.
Yeah. I have fairly strong opinions on this, and those are largely based upon what is going to be the most effective for the patient. And I think once you get to the point where you absolutely cannot stand myopia and it progressing in a child, you're going to do whatever it takes to make it the most effective. The money will always come. So I think the best way that we can get to the end point is to have a dedicated appointments set aside for that conversation. We do that in our vision therapy side as well, right? We don't talk about binocular vision abnormalities during the exam. We just say, there is something that's concerning me, and I'd like to bring you back so we can have some more testing and talk about this a little bit further. And on the myopia side, that's what we talk about, is this prescription seems to be progressing, and this seems to be very, very concerning. I'm going to send you some information, but I need to see you back before I can release the prescription. If you want a glasses prescription, here it is, but I'd really like us to see you back because this progression is concerning me. I'd like to do some more tests, and then we can come up with a plan of what we're going to do to slow this down. Is that okay with you? And then, there's going to be some people who say no. I haven't had very many who are just like, no, I want the glasses prescription. But getting them back then becomes easy. And I'm not a big fan of charging through the roof for that. Having a very small fee for that consultation, especially if you convert very high, that can just be added into your long-term costs. But I have an idea of having that relatively small. Now I'm going to put that aside for a second, because if you're just starting off in myopia management, that's what you need to do every single day. And if you are seeing kids that are myopic, which I know that we are far more than we used to be, then that's the direction that you start. If you're getting into this and you really like it, then you've got to go out and spread the word to the community. And unfortunately, we just don't have enough people doing myopia management. And so the referrals will come. And when a patient is referred in, it's just into the consultation. And those are almost slam dunks, right? You guys know that when we have somebody referred to the practice, it just tends to be a yes, far more likely than if it's an eye exam for somebody we've been following along for a long time. But getting started is just those returning those patients back. And, a lot of people have that argument, well, I'm just too busy. You can't be too busy for a patient with glaucoma who is progressing, right? If all of a sudden we just discovered that glaucoma is a progressive disease that's causing the blindness, you wouldn't just let those people go. You would make time in your practice. You would make time. And, if for some reason you happen to be listening and you can't make time, then you've got to refer those patients out, just like you would for a retinal detachment that you don't have time to see.
Sure. Or any other specialty that you don't provide, if you don't provide binocular vision, or if you don't provide low vision or what have you, those referrals between optometrists are so powerful and needed, and they don't happen nearly enough.
Yeah. And if I refer a patient to somebody else for whatever service it may be, like I've spoken well of them ahead of time, their yes comes a lot easier, right?
Sure.
Just like my yes comes a lot easier when they refer to me. And I think that's a really key component of what we need to be doing. I couldn't agree more, Dwight.
Sure.
One thing I liked about your presentation to the patient, or one thing I took away, is when you mentioned at the end, is that okay with you? And you presented it that way. Was that something you picked up over the years? Is that something that you found is very powerful in that conversion? Because right when you said that, I was like, oh, that's unique. I wonder if I should be doing that more.
Yeah, I've probably stolen that from somebody along the way, but just getting that confirmation that you're in agreement with them about what's important, right? This is concerning to me. Do you understand me? Right? That's kind of how that is it okay if we work together to find a solution for this? If the patient decides that they don't want to go in the direction that we're recommending, that's okay. It's on me to present the best recommendation that I can. And that feeds into something else, is if the patient does say no, that's never the end. There's always a 3-month follow-up, because now we're monitoring and progressing a disease. And so there's going to be a 3-month follow-up if they say no, and then we'll reiterate the conversation again. And we'll get them to say no until we run them out of the practice, or they agree that this is a valuable, important thing that this child needs to do. We don't not manage myopia. We manage myopia with every single child, whether you're managing them as they progress or you're managing them to slow it down. We are myopia managers, and we have to be following them closely.
Sure.
I like that concept where you kind of mentioned it. It's like to your analogy, a glaucoma patient, right? Where, all right, I'm going to initiate this treatment. They're not going to do it. You're going to follow them for so long, where if they say, hey, I'm not going to take my drops, I'm not going to do anything for glaucoma. It's like, well, I've done everything I can. I don't know that I can, be your practitioner anymore, because you're not listening to what I'm saying. It's the same concept of treating a disease. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. And Dwight, you brought up a great point, with regards to doing this all within an exam is, a comprehensive eye exam is not intended to be any more than an annual physical. They're not going to do your MRI or your blood work or, anything beyond. We've discovered there's an issue. We've got to go deeper, and they'll always schedule you back for that. And in optometry, we just have kind of said this is all encompassing in this eye exam, and it's not. There's a reason why we get paid less than $100 for an eye exam by an insurance, is because we should be doing less than $100 worth of value. Sure. And if there is something more that we need to do, a fantastic glaucoma eval, a binocular vision eval, then those are intended for us to come back. Bring them.
Question for you, David. One of the things you mentioned was when you do present that you would like to bring them back, there's some more testing you want to do and have a further discussion. You mentioned you send some information out to them. Can you go through a little bit of what type of information you send or have someone from your team send them so they can better prepare for the upcoming evaluation?
Yeah, those resources are really, really valuable, and they take a long time to put together. And we've practiced myopia management for 15 years, and all along we keep saying what we need to do, right? And doing that is a real challenge. And we recently joined Treehouse Eyes, and they have it all, right? So if you are somebody who has a ton of time and you can put all those staff training and all those resources together and do a video and all that sort of stuff, then that's a great way to do it. But there are companies and there are resources outside of Treehouse Eyes, not just, but that can help you with that. And the things I think are important is to have something educating them on the frequently asked questions. So don't send anything out, have the patient come in and have somebody write down all of the questions that get asked to you over the course of 10 evaluations, and then make a video or make a document that has answers to those frequently asked questions. Like, what are the things that people are really wondering about, right? And what are those things? I think that's really valuable. If you can do it in a video format, even better, right? That will engage people. So those are some of the things that I think are really valuable to send out ahead of time.
Sure.
And for those that are not familiar with Treehouse Eyes, can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. So, there's a bunch of reasons I jumped on board with Treehouse Eyes. Treehouse was formed by Matt Ording and Gary Gerber years ago when they just saw this myopia epidemic coming to fruition. Over 40, I think 70 offices or something along those lines around the country really pointed towards myopia management, right? And so we joined Treehouse Eyes with our practice, and then we bring it into our practice. They help us with our marketing. They help us with our staff training. They help us with, getting the word out in the community, right? Setting up meetings for doctors so we can educate them about myopia management. I love their mission. And I love that what they do is they do myopia and they do it really well. And I just wanted to grab onto what they're doing because I'm swimming over here all by myself and I'm doing okay, but I've been working really hard and swimming against the current. And now I can swim alongside other people, learn from them and see what they're doing and have some people supporting me from the back end. And they do a really good job with that. And so that's why we decided to join them. I've already done myopia management for years and years and years, and I think we do it pretty well on our own, but having somebody that we're doing it along with that can keep us accountable and make sure that we're training our staff and keeping everybody up to speed and how are we presenting things to patients and materials to patients, that having somebody else do that. And there's other people besides Treehouse Eyes that can kind of fit those niches. But I think it's important for us to have a community like the Academy as well. And, getting connected with 2 or 3 or 4 docs that you talk to on a weekly basis or a monthly basis that keeps you accountable is how we get really good at something. I set a goal for this year to double my myopia management. Wow. And I do a lot. And so, and actually by next year, we're going to have doubled it well over again. And so in setting a goal like that, I just had to say, what are the barriers that are going to keep me from getting there? And who can I join up with that will help me achieve these objectives? If we look at the 100 or 300 or 500 patients that you may have in your myopia practice, even if you have 1,000 patients in your myopia practice, we're not going to hit the goal of eradicating myopia anytime soon. Right? So we have to be really, really refined in this and spread the word like we're doing right now.
The refinement that you mentioned, David, is I think that's one of those things, regardless of whether we join a group to do that or, work with a marketing expert or what have you. I think that's one of the things that we always strive for. When I was starting myopia management in my practice, and I find the story repeats itself when I talk to other people, I would always look at the orthodontist, right? Because their specialty is so well known. People just kind of know, well, there's a really good chance my kid's going to need some braces. And I know these people do it. And you go in and it's so polished. And it seems like that task of starting from scratch to come up with your materials, that you already know what you're doing. You already are an expert in this, but you're trying to make sure that you can impart that to the patient so they see you as the expert. And to do that, you really do have to have kind of a polished set of information and materials that you put out there for them. And so that's a unique way to get there, is by partnering with them. I would assume that that's probably a big part of what you get out of them.
Yeah, it is. And, it costs money. I'm paying the same as everybody else. But here's the reality is it's nothing in comparison to growing a big myopia practice, right? And I want to be sharper. And there's a couple areas that I want to be world class. So who can help me get there, right? And that's what we need to be doing, is who can sharpen us every day, and find those people for yourself.
That's so great that you're already having a successful myopia control practice and still pushing the envelope and saying, this is not enough. I need to double it. And, you're probably one of the top 1% in the country of doing myopia control. And you're like, no, I got to do better, and reaching out and collaborating and just really pushing yourself.
But yeah, I like these stories. I tell you, I love the stories that we're learning about people like Kobe Bryant, right? Kobe would put in 3 hours of practice before practice would start. Everybody would show up for practice, and Kobe had already been in the gym for 3 hours, right? There's reasons why he's been considered one of, or if not the best, right? And I'm not satisfied with just being good. I want to find ways that we can be great, because our patients deserve it.
That's I have a Kobe Bryant story here for you, actually, now that you bring that up. So Kobe Bryant was, also kind of a mentor to a lot of the younger guys that came up too. So Paul George, who's now, a veteran in the league, but as a young buck, he reached out to Kobe to, he wanted to go practice with him. He wanted to learn from him. So he called up Kobe and he said, hey, I'd love to go work out with you. He's like, all right, come by my place at 5, we'll go to the gym. Paul George comes up at 5 p.m. and doesn't see Kobe for a while. It's like an hour. And he calls him and says, hey man, I'm outside. Like, where are you? Kobe's like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, you said come here at 5. I was like, yeah, I meant 5 a.m., not 5 p.m. He woke up, started early, worked out the entire day. And to Paul George, he didn't even fathom to even think about starting at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
That's that Mamba mentality.
Story. Yeah, absolutely. What a legend.
So going a little bit back to ortho, okay, you mentioned how you're pushing yourself now with the new agency with Trial Size, which is, I'm sure it's going to be fantastic, but you had such a great practice for myopia control prior to that. How did you kind of market that prior to bringing this company on? Was it website marketing, SEO? Was it, social media? Was it just internal? Just marketing to your existing patients. How did you build that practice? Because you mentioned when you got it, it was mostly primary care.
Yeah, it was. So we right off the bat came out swinging and started getting to know all of the ODs in the community, and started to work to foster mutually beneficial relationships. We got very involved in both the local as well as the state societies and associations. We contributed a lot with our volunteer time, and we were in the practice constantly for the first 3 years. We didn't have children because we wouldn't have had time for them in our first couple of years. Every moment was spent in the practice. And so everything from sending out letters, and sometimes people are like, I send something out and I don't get very many referrals back. Well, the reality is you've got to send out with repetition. And the reality is most people are not going to read something that you send them, but they'll notice when you send them things repeatedly. And so that's something, emails that you're sending back. Anytime you do get a referral, a letter goes back and, thanks them for it, or even a phone call and sharing with them how much you appreciated that patient and this is what you're going to do for it. Really fostering those referrals. And then about 8 years ago, we started something called the Specialty Eye Expo. My practice is called Specialty Eye. So the Specialty Eye Expo, or C, was an expo that we put on, and we partnered with vendors in the area to help reduce or cover the costs. And we put on 8 hours of specialty education of things that we do well, or we think we do well in our practice, and how can we give that to our referring doctors.
Oh,
So
wow.
they become better in ortho-K and myopia management, dry eye and binocular vision and specialty contact lenses. Let's give away the secrets. And then if you don't want to do it, we'd be happy to help you with it. Call us, pick up the phone and call us about a patient. We'd be happy to help you with that. My cataract and referral center, they do that all the time. Like I pick up a phone and I talk to them about glaucoma, or I talk to them about a patient I'm not really quite sure what I should do with. Do you want to see the patient? And sometimes they're like, nope, we don't want to see him. Do this, that, and the other thing, and call retina. Or, they said, they've just been a great connection for me. And so I said, how can I be that for people? And so, we can always do better, but I think that's been one way that's really garnered a lot of referrals, is people have started to see us as experts in those particular areas. Anytime locally you get an opportunity to lecture, whether it's at an association meeting or for a company, if they've got a product and you can give back to your local community, great ways to do that, and just to become seen as the expert, and then dig in, right, and really get to know. We spend hours looking at literature, becoming the expert. I got one of the best compliments at our Specialty Eye Expo that we just held a couple of weeks ago. Is somebody mentioned, they said, we love the fact that you go and learn, and then you are always so willing to share that with us. And, this morning I had a lit review of 4 different articles that my resident and I did, where we just, poured over the literature on a topic of a type of disease that we see once or twice a year, but we poured into it, right? And we can share that information. So it's about becoming the expert, actually knowing what you're doing, and then sharing that as much as you can. My mission in life is to enrich people's lives so they can succeed to their greatest potential. If that's my patient, excellent. I want to help them. If it's the doctor next door, I want to be able to help them, right? Any way that I can enrich their life so they can succeed to their greatest potential, I win. And whether it's them getting to see more of their own patients, or whether those patients get referred to me, fantastic. We'd love to be able to help them. My vision is to dramatically impact the lives of people who need specialty lenses, people who have myopia, people who have binocular abnormalities, and people with dry eye. We want to deliver happiness, and then we want to maximize our net collections. So I have those things, and we go over those every single week with our team. We talk to them about them, and then we've got other things too that really impact how we go about the business that we do. But it's about supporting and enriching other people's lives and giving, right? That's a big part of it.
That's really cool. When we talk about, and we mentioned it earlier, the lack of referrals between optometrists, I think that communication that you're talking about, the phone call or the report back or the thank you letter, the acknowledgement at the very least in some way, shape, or form is one of the things that tends to be missing. And I think as simple as it is and as small as it is, when that's missing, I think it interrupts the entire process. So
yeah,
I think seeing that and noticing it and being really, really intentional on, thank you for caring enough to send this patient over, and hey, this is what I did, and this is how they're doing, and this is when I'm going to see them again. And all those little things there that we're used to seeing tertiary care providers within eye care doing, but we haven't, as a community, always been fantastic about doing it. And I think that probably makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. And it does. And, if they don't refer to me and we give them some information, great. And just raising everybody up, because we really just want to make people better, and then these patients, so they don't progress. And Dwight, you asked a little bit about some of that other types of marketing. Mm-hmm. So I had the most beautiful website for years and years and years. And I thought I knew some things about marketing, and I've done a ton of research. I think I do know a lot more than most people, but I came to realize that although my website looked like a Lamborghini, it was functioning like a 1980s Pinto. And it just wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. It looked fancy from the outside, but its engine was very, very poor. So we teamed up with a company called Marketing for ECPs, and they drove me to understand what was happening with my beautiful website and how poorly it was working. And they ran metrics to show me. And, last year we had over 40,000 visits to our website. And we track those to find out what's converting. And a conversion counts as a phone call. It counts as a click to go and fill out a form or some of those. So we're now tracking it. If you're paying for marketing, it's not truly marketing unless you can measure it. So you have to find ways to do that. And I think that's something that people don't do well. They think, well, 2% is how much I should spend for my marketing, but I really want to grow this year, right? Take 5% and find ways that you can measure that it's being successful. You can do very pointed things. Like if there is a company that their insurance you really like, or that they have, have a lot of kids, it's a growing population, or a school district or something like that, you can specifically target those areas and put a fence around a building and make it so that anybody who goes into that building with their phone now will get targeted with an ad. You can very specifically target. We've got some companies in the Seattle area that we really like having those patients as those employees of those companies as patients, and we very specifically market to those people. That's called geofencing. And there's many other things. We could talk the whole time about marketing, of ways we can do that. Pointed emails to your own patient base. You need to send something with repetition for them to see it and understand it. It's not so much what you say, it's that you say it repeatedly. Those are really good things to help grow your practice.
That's such a great point. I remember, 5-6 years ago when we talked about email marketing and, we shouldn't send too many emails. They're going to get mad at us. But think about of every company that emails you 10 times a day. It's okay if your eye doctor emails you, right? Mm-hmm. So that repetition is important. The other thing I took away, when you're talking about doing these lectures and doing these conferences, it's your passion. You can see from when you're talking of how engaged you are in what you're saying. You just care about treating every single myopic patient, right? Like you don't care that they're coming to you. You want to make sure that kid is taken care of. If they come to you, great. If not, whatever, but let's take care of that patient. And Dwight, I think you can agree with me as well. The biggest issue we see is not that, I'm not getting enough ortho-K patients. Is when that referral comes in, is how come I never heard of it before? That's right. Our biggest hurdle. That's the biggest hurdle. I think that's what you're trying to educate your community.
Yeah, absolutely. It's if we're just in it to make a ton more money for our practice, we're going to only grow at a certain rate. But if our mission is to eradicate or eliminate or do as much as we possibly can, right? Elon Musk wants to get to Mars. The chance of us doing that within his lifetime are very, very slim. But look at how he's catapulted that concept to get there, right? We're never going to eradicate myopia all the way, but we have a substantial opportunity to decrease the rates of glaucoma and macular disease and retinal disease 20, 30, 40 years from now by the actions that we take right now. And so we can make an incredible difference, but I can't do it alone. And I can't do it alone for all of Seattle. Even if you did refer every single myopic patient to me in Seattle, there's no way I could see all of them, right? So we have to share that with our community. And I'm going to get more by sharing that information. But really, I need you doing it too. Please help, right? So we need more docs and more ophthalmologists and more opticians in step with us. So getting every single touch point that we can with them is really big. I agree, buddy.
Sure.
Yeah, that's great. And speaking of Elon Musk, you're going to pay that $6 to get that check, the blue check?
I don't think so.
Hey, David, when we talk about, I think that's a great point, getting not just the optometrists around, but also, the opticians and the regular workers. Anything you'd like to share about what you've done to keep your staff well trained so that, when they get those those little tiny probing questions, just those little curiosities, even if they don't know if they're really interested in myopia management, so that you feel confident that they're getting the type of answers from your team that you want them to be getting. What have you done to help foster that?
Yeah, well, anytime we talk about my team, I have to talk about our core values because that's what drive us. And there are gifts. That's GIFTS, and that's generosity, initiative, faithfulness, teamwork, and simplicity. And so just to start off with, our generosity means that we give because we have an abundance, right? And that's just an American way, right? We have way more than we probably deserve to have. So how can I give back? So that patient calls up, they lost their glasses. How can we be generous, right? That patient broke their ortho-K lens. What do we do to be generous, right? The initiative, and that's taking action. And I want my team to be like, I don't understand that. Oh, well, I don't need to, right? No, I want them to take initiative, that they've got to figure those things out. Faithfulness means that we honor that there is a process of becoming. We're never there, but we're going to honor the process of becoming better all the way. Teamwork stands for the fact that we're a team and we work, right? We don't just come to play. We work hard and we do it together. And then simplicity is we're constantly trying to simplify the process that we go about. How can I better educate somebody on myopia in a more simple way, right? How do we always drive towards simplicity? Because if I'm using all these fancy words and the patient doesn't understand it, because I heard Dr. Dave say these words in a staff meeting, like that doesn't help, right? We got to simplify. So those core values are what drive us. And fortunately, we've teamed up with an organization that really values this team concept and really making sure that the team is a big part of it. And Treehouse has a whole training thing that they help put together. Before we joined Treehouse, we have weekly meetings. And so we're constantly talking about what's important to us and talking about the specialties. And we meet at least every 6 months, if not every year, where we really dig in to certain specialties and try to make sure everybody's on board. When a new person joins the team, we've got videos that we try to train them. They hear from other staff members. So it's having, and then, all that's woohoo stuff, unless you have a checklist, and the checklist has to be checked that the patient was trained in that, or the team member was trained, and they can check everything off that we trained them the way that they should have been, that they watched this video, that they've practiced with another team member of how to say something. They've gone around and told everybody that they can think of, that's going to cost you thousands of dollars. Become comfortable saying that's going to be thousands of dollars, right? But being comfortable with that.
Great.
I love that. The gifts thing, man. No, I thought our team meetings were good. I might have to steal that one. That's incredible. Wow.
You're welcome to have it.
All right, Dave, we've had you for a little while, and man, it was incredible insights. Thank you so much. But I do want to end on one question that a lot of us get all the time when the patients come in. How do you get the parents to say yes?
Yeah. Well, we get them yes to a yes by not accepting no. So, in the world of myopia management, there tends to be a lot of people who say yes because they see the value of it. If somebody doesn't say yes because it's so expensive for them, it's one of two things. Either one, there's no way they can financially handle the expense of what it is. Or number two is they don't understand. So that lack of understanding is on us. The financial side, we'll talk about that in a second. And so that's where we need to bring them back and help them understand progression has been happening. It's going to continue to happen. How can we help educate you on the importance of keeping Johnny able to see when he's swimming, right? Talking about the lifestyle aspects, not just the disease aspects, but the lifestyle of how good this is going to be. When they see the true reasons that they need to slow it down, if they can financially afford it, most people will find the way to do that. The second one goes back to generosity. Because we do so well, on the financial side and get so many people to say yes, I encourage you to develop a scholarship program within your practice for the people that legitimately are there, but financially they can't make it, right? And those people are so grateful when that happens. It may, and I don't think the financial side of it and the scholarship should ever cover 100%, but it should help get the patient into the program and get them started in it. And then we can help them see the value of it. And I always ask one question on the scholarship application that we have, and that is, someday, would you be willing to contribute back to the scholarship fund to help fund somebody else if your finances someday turn around, right? And I want to be that person, right? We're trying to eradicate myopia. There's a lot of people that pay full price, and fortunately, it's an area of optometry that we can find ways to help other people get in, and that's by having a generosity aspect of it. And so how do we get them to say yes? Is that education? And there's two reasons they say no. They don't see the value, or they financially absolutely cannot. So nobody ever leaves and goes away forever. There's always that follow-up, and we're continuing to educate them. And once we get to the point where we know they can't financially get to it, we tell them there is a scholarship opportunity if that's something you'd be interested in. How can we help you get into the program?
There's a
Really
reason
cool.
that G was first. You're definitely living the life of that generosity. That's fantastic. And that scholarship program is great. And I would imagine that's, just doing myopia control ourselves, it's probably a very small percentage of that's the second group of just financially can't do it. I mean, and the fact that you're still willing to have it a core principle to still help them out. That's incredible. Sorry, Dwight, I know you say something.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying very cool. It's a neat story. It's a neat way to look at it. You're in this to help people, and that's really taking it to the highest level to say, well, all right, what steps can I put in place to help as many people as I can? I think it's a really cool way to look at it.
Yeah.
Hey, I know you love the clinical aspect, so I hope you don't mind us really getting into the practice management side. It was incredible to learn all the insights. I'll steal a phrase from you. If nobody else got anything, I know I did for sure. So
Certainly.
These are things I'm going to go into the practice tomorrow and tell them, oh, you won't believe what I learned last night. And so my staff has to deal with me because of you, David.
You can have them call me up. I'd be happy to chat.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much. And again, thank you for tuning in to the Corrected View podcast. We're so humbled and so honored for Dr. David Kading to join us tonight. And it was really, really amazing. Thank you, Dr. Kading. Dwight, always a pleasure seeing you. And have a great night, everybody.
All right.
Thank you.
Good night.